Every village has its idiots. Locharbert in Scotland had 3, and they were brothers 3, who lived together under a wooden frame pulled over with old coats and left on the shore by former sages, known in these parts as tinkers. They were part of the scenery, the only inhabitants of the shore, the only stragglers on Main Street during a downpour. They knew the history of Locharbert, not the kind to be found in books, but who had slipped into the lives of whom and when. Which farmer's tup had got into a field of another farmer's ewes, whose baby had been fathered by someone else. In these things, the brothers were as dependable as the standing stones left behind in the fields around Locharbert by Druids. The older inhabitants of Locharbert could put a lineage to these 3, but for most folk they were simply Murdo, Donal, and Dooley. Like the travelling folk they replaced, the brothers seldom bathed or carried out any other ablutions. In all weathers, they wore army coats, whose buttons had long since been replaced by string. In the colder months, the brothers wore newspaper inside their coats. In summer, which in this rural part of the world barely counts as the warm season, they rolled back their sleeves on unwashed arms. The brothers were not triplets, but they looked alike. Murdo was balder than the other 2, but they were all small in stature, all round-faced and round-bellied, all more gum than tooth. So, before almost anybody else, the brothers knew the American was coming to Locharbert and how he was going to be staying with Mrs. McPhealy, because they knew the entire history of her family, the McNaughts, and they knew that the American was a far-off relative. They knew that in the distance they were related to this man too. But he didn't know that, and they knew that he didn't. They lived along the edge of life, and the name Hollywood, or even California, belonged in their minds to the same nebulous zone inhabited by handless pipers, or the grey ladies who haunted certain bridges in the woods beyond the town.